Hey guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, The Bright Side Girl, and today we're going to be talking about book budgeting. I have been promising this video for at least a couple months, but this is basically going to be just a quick chat about book budgeting. Like, what is it? Should you do it? Do I do it? How do you do it? And all that kind of stuff. So if that is your thing, stay tuned. Even if you're just curious, then keep on watching. The reason I want to bring this topic up is because when you first are introduced to BookTube, you see all of these like amazing booktubers and they're giant book hauls. And honestly, even when you're like really into YouTube, you have this with planner YouTubers and organization YouTubers and DIY YouTubers and makeup YouTubers and lifestyle YouTubers. Hauling is a really big part of YouTube and there's a lot of controversy around that. Personally, I think it's your money and you're allowed to spend it on whatever you want. Obviously, you should be super grateful that you're allowed to buy things in large quantities or small quantities, or you're able to buy things because of where you live and how much you make and everything around you. So no shaming here whatsoever. So the issue with watching YouTube and seeing all these amazing hauls is that you think that you need to do it, whether it's because you want to be a part of YouTube and you want to make videos and you feel like you need to do hauls, or whether it's just because you love whatever subject it is that you're watching being hauled. So like when I first started YouTube and I saw all these people hauling books, like I didn't have that many books to begin with. I had just moved across country and I literally kept like 15 books. I didn't necessarily feel like I had to haul books. Me on YouTube, it's just kind of something that happened and like fell into my lap. I had been going to these library bookstores that I've mentioned in a lot of videos and collecting like Christmas books and cookbooks, and it had never occurred to me to look for like young adult fantasy and adventure stories and sci-fi books. I just wasn't reading a lot at the time, and once I realized that I should look for that, I just was able to find so many amazing books, which was so great. And so I was immediately able to do book hauls like from the beginning. I'm pretty sure my first video ever was a book haul and it was like 20 or 30 books. That being said, I never felt like I had to do book hauls. It was just something that kind of came to me and it was really fun and I just really enjoyed it and people really like watching them, so that's really fun as well. But if you want to be a part of BookTube or any YouTube society, you do not have to do hauls. I don't feel like you should pressure yourself to do hauls or go out of your way to do hauls. Like if it's something that naturally happens or something that you're really passionate about, then that's great. But for me, like it's just something that kind of happened because I was able to find books so cheaply. I'm really lucky, so I'm able to get books for usually $1 or less. I almost never spend more than $2 on books. Sometimes I get them for $1. So I'm able to do like lots of hauls and I get like a lot of amazing books and I feel like super lucky and super grateful. But because of that, I wanted to set for myself a book budget. A lot of people misconstrue budgeting for being a negative connotation, meaning that you can't buy things because you're on a budget. For me, learning to budget and handle my finances was one of the best things that I've done in my entire life. We were able to pay off all of our debt in 2016, like really like just pushing it to the grind and going really hardcore, and we had a lot of debt. We live in a very expensive area. We make good money, but not amazing money. And so you'd be really surprised what you're able to do when you just know where your money is going. So because I was already in that mindset, because of having to just budget my entire life, I set myself a book budget. So all that means is that before the month begins, before we get any of our money, I pick a number and I designate a certain amount of money for everything. So food, groceries, gas, clothes, what have you. When I was paying off debt, I was extremely strict and I never ever went over and I didn't leave any wiggle room at all. But when we were debt free, I gave a little wiggle room. So I usually set like my gas budget like $100 more than most likely what we're going to spend. That way I am going under rather than going over and things like that. I don't do that with every category, but I am able to be a little bit more flexible without going out of control. So what I set my book budget at is around $30 to $35. I set that at the beginning of the month. That has been my like go-to book budget for almost 2 years now, and I've almost never gone over that. There have been a couple of months where I went over because I just was not paying attention, and there have been a couple of months where I found such amazing things, like when I first joined the young adult swapping trade group, I definitely went over it, but nothing crazy. I think maybe $40 at the most. Now $30 for a book budget can be really, really high for some people, can be really, really low for other people. For me, it's absolutely perfect. I don't feel like I'm spending an enormous amount of money on books. I don't buy a lot of clothing or shoes or anything like that. I rarely buy stuff like that anymore, and so for me, that's just the portion of the money that I'm going to. I read a lot, and I'm also able to sometimes get money back from buying the book, either selling it or trading it or whatnot. And I also feel like I'm kind of giving back to the library if I redonate the books. So for me, the $30 to $35 range is awesome. A lot of times I don't even spend that much. Since I get my books so cheap, it's easy for me to get a lot of books for that amount. Also, if I do wind up buying books that are more expensive, it keeps me from buying too many books at a higher price range. Because even at $1 or $2, I noticed when we moved to our new county that the library bookstores were set, their standard was kind of $2 instead of $1 like I was used to, and it added up really quickly. I was meeting my book budget halfway through the month instead of at the end of the month because I was spending more on the books, even though $2 isn't that much money when you add it up. You know, if I'm doing this like 3 or 4 times a week because I'm near all these libraries, then you can wind up spending a lot of money really fast. So I got a little bit pickier and I waited for library sales and things like that. Me personally, spending a lot of money on like an individual book is just not my thing. I rarely ever buy new releases. I save that for the authors that I really love and want to support, or that I feel like I'm not going to be able to get their books for a long time. But I do a lot of library hauling as well. And so I just, for me, spending a ridiculous amount on books, or what I consider a ridiculous amount, is just detrimental to my finances, and it takes away from money that I should be spending on other things. And if you're not paying attention, then you can wind up not even being able to pay your rent because you're not paying attention to what you're spending your money on, because you just see something and you say, I want that, and you buy it. And since I quit doing that, my life has completely turned around. I feel like I actually have more money than I've ever had. I feel like I'm able to buy things when I want them because I know how much I can spend, and I'm not worried that I'm like not going to be able to pay my rent or not going to be able to buy more groceries. Like, I know how much I'm spending on everything, and it is amazing. So for my overall budgeting for my entire life, I use an app called EveryDollar. It is free, but it has an upgrade if you want like more advanced features. Basically, I don't want to show you my actual numbers, but basically it just lets me put in the estimated amount that we're gonna make for the month, and then I just go through and I add in the most important things first, like groceries and mortgage and gas and all those kinds of things, and then I go through and I start filling in the more less important categories, like if we have a clothing budget that month, or if we're going to go on date nights, or if we're going to go out to eat, and then I start filling those things until it's down to 0, and then I stick with that throughout the month, including the book budget. So that is amazing for me, and every month you can hit reset, so you don't have to go in and fill in everything unless you want to or unless something changes. So for me, that's what I follow, and for my book budget, it has worked so well. I am able to have these amazing books, and I don't feel like I'm putting my finances in duress. Now, for those of you that are not able to get books super cheap like me, I personally, like if I was in your shoes, and I have been before, I just didn't buy very many books unless I absolutely knew I was going to read them right away, or I asked for them for my birthday or for Christmas, or I looked online for under $5 at Goodwills and eBays. I didn't go obsessive. I usually only bought like a couple books a month, and then I just get the rest from the library, and that way I am reading them. I know if I love them, and I can buy them later if I know that it's something that I want to reread or have on my shelves. The majority of the reading I did my entire life was from the library because I just didn't like to buy books if I didn't know if I was gonna like it, and then have this book around my house that I spent, you know, $15 to $20 on. You can't get that money back out of it, especially. Like, that really bothers me. I'm like, I don't like it. I spent a bunch of money on it, and I can't resell it. And also, I wasted money on that I could have spent on something else. So for me personally, if I wasn't able to get books for $2 or less, I would be using the library a lot more and just trading with friends and asking for gifts and things for birthdays and stuff like that. So book budgeting is something that's really up to you. I know that I have a lot of younger viewers, and there are a lot of younger booktubers on the internet, but let me tell you right now, from someone that went like willy-nilly the entire time in their 20s, it is not worth it. No matter how much you love, those books or those shoes or the purse or whatever, when you're spending money and not knowing where your money is going, and then not being able to pay your rent and things that are vitally important to your well-being, it destroys like your mental aspect. You are out of control in your life, and it's really, really hard on your family and yourself later on too. I wound up having a lot of credit card debt that I had to spend a long time paying off and being super crazy strict about. And I am glad for that experience because it taught me so much about my finances, and we were able to buy a house last year, which I did not think would ever be possible once we moved to California. And it's been so awesome, and we have so many goals and dreams that I know we can accomplish because I've seen it happen. So for me, book budgeting is a part of that because that's one thing that I spend my money on. It's one of the only things I spend the money on personally. Like I said, I don't buy a lot of clothing or jewelry or whatever. I buy some crafts and some books, and those are my two things like at the moment. And I just have a book budget and I set it for that. And then if I get extra birthday money or Christmas money or whatever, then I'll spend more money on books if I want to. I personally don't feel like I need to because I have amazing deals, but that's just something that's really important to me. And I feel like it's something that's not talked about on BookTube. I feel like people are like, oh, I went to Barnes & Noble and I bought this and I probably shouldn't have. Don't do that. Don't do that to your finances. Don't feel good in the moment and cause yourself so much stress later when you can still get that book from the library or from a friend or maybe a couple months later at a used bookstore and still have fun. And a lot of times people are getting books that they don't read. I see a lot of booktubers that are hauling 30 books like I am, 20, 30 books, and they don't ever read them. Well, for me, it's fine because I spent like $1 on them slowly over time. But when you're spending, you know, $10, $15, $20 on a book and then not reading it, like what is the point? It's just a like quick high in the moment because you see other people doing it or because it's something that you really want. I really trained myself to not cause financial problems because of instant gratification, and it was one of the best lessons that I ever learned. So I just wanted to come on here really quick and talk to you guys about that. Hopefully this wasn't offensive or scary. Let me know if you guys do any book budgeting or if you like this idea. It might be great for keeping your hauls in check as well. Like it might hurt in the moment to be like, ah, I saw that book and I can't get it. But trust me, it's so worth it in the long run. You can read them from the library and then you can buy them later once you do have the funds. And if you're someone that is able to spend, you know, 100, 150 bucks on books and it doesn't, you know, keep you from eating dinner that week, go for it. That's totally fine too. It's all in ratio to what you're making and what you choose to spend your money on. If you're making no money and then you're spending it all on books and you can't eat dinner, then maybe we need to look at our life and just kind of reassess some priorities here. I hope this video was fun and helpful in some way. Let me know if you guys are book budgeting or if you're doing anything like this for the new year because it's the perfect time to start. I will be doing a video soon on how to get books for $1. So stay tuned for that. It would probably take me another month or so for it to come out because I'm doing a lot of research and things for you guys that don't live in an amazing fairy book land like I do. So there are ways to get books for under $5, but even under $1, even if you don't live in an area like me that has a lot of these used library bookstores. So that video I am super excited about. I think it's going to be really helpful for you guys. I am a little deal finder, and when I want something, I figure out how to get it and not spend all of my money. So stay tuned for that. It'll be really, really fun. Let me know if you guys have tips and tricks for book budgeting or for getting books for super cheap, and let me know how you're feeling, or if you just get ebooks, or if you just get them from the library, because the library rocks and you should support it to keep them in business, man, because Overdrive is amazing, first of all. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and sometimes on the weekends, and I'll see you guys next time on the bright side. Bye! Happy book buying!